Before gold cursed his tongue, before his name shook the ground. He was just a boy. A boy born from silence and shock. In the ancient Igbo land of Umukoma, where baobab trees touched the sky and ancestors whispered through the wind, birth was not just a beginning, it was a warning or a blessing. When Okonkwo entered the world, the skies wept but not with rain. The winds howled through the thatched roofs as if mourning something not yet lost. His mother, Ngozi, died before her final cry could fade. Some say it was childbirth. Others said she saw something waiting. As she lay bloodied on the mat, her eyes locked on a corner of the hut, wide with terror, lips parted in the shape of a name she never finished. His father, Oduka, a poor palm wine tapper and drunk of no ambition, cradled the newborn with shaky hands, naming him Okonkwo, a name of stubborn strength. But even he whispered it carefully. The child had not cried. Instead, baby Okonkwo stared blankly at the flickering oil lamp and smiled. By the time he was 4, villagers noticed he spoke rarely, but when he did, it was always precise. He would sit for hours watching insects march in lines, studying the way ants carried their dead. He spoke of things no one taught him, how termites nested, how yams rooted. The elders shrugged. Children were odd. But mothers whispered, he's not like the others. At 7, he found a dying lizard, broke its neck gently, and buried it under the mango tree behind his father's hut. That night, a thunderstorm tore through the village. The tree split in half. No one connected the two, except Mama Ogwagu, the blind seeress who muttered, "When a child buries death, death may follow him." Still, life trudged on. Okonkwo grew up lean and silent, mocked by some, feared by others. He rarely played, preferring to listen, to the earth, the fire, the silence. His father beat him often, calling him lazy. But Okonkwo didn't flinch. He only watched, eyes hollow like someone already older than the man who struck him. Then came the day he disappeared. He was 10. It was the dry season. The sun sat heavy like molten bronze in the sky. The village children went to fetch water near the hill of Onwa, a sacred place no one entered after sunset. But Okonkwo broke away from the group and walked into the forest. He vanished. For 3 days, Oduka searched. The villagers joined at first. Then they stopped. The cave near the hill of Onwa was forbidden. It was said to be a mouth of the underworld, where ancestral spirits went to mourn or rage. No one dared enter. Mama Ogwagu, who hadn't left her compound in years, spat kola on the ground and said, "He has been called. And he will either return a vessel, or not at all." On the morning of the 4th day, Okonkwo returned. He walked into the village barefoot, dirty, eyes burning with quiet fire. He said nothing. But around his neck was a bone pendant, shaped like an eye, carved with symbols no one understood. Some said it pulsed like a heartbeat. When asked where he had been, he said, "I followed the ants. They showed me a door. And that was all." After that, he changed. He began lifting pesos heavier than men twice his size. He predicted rainfalls to the day. At 13, he cured a boy of fever using herbs only grown on sacred ground. At 15, he defeated the champion wrestler of the next village with a single throw. His father died soon after, struck by a falling palm tree on a clear day. Some whispered it wasn't an accident. Okonkwo buried him alone, under the mango tree. And then, without warning, he vanished again, this time on purpose. He left Umukoma at 17, wearing only a brown wrapper, sandals, and the bone pendant. No goodbyes. No promises. Only silence. 12 years passed. The people of Umukoma nearly forgot the boy who once whispered to shadows. Until a dust storm arrived before him. A convoy of black jeeps rode into the village. 6 in all. The kind only seen in foreign films. Windows tinted, engines humming like beasts. Children scattered. Drummers paused mid-beat. And then he stepped out. Okonkwo. No longer the lean boy of old. Now a man, tall, sharp-jawed, clad in silk agbada with silver embroidery. His wrist shimmered with gold bracelets. His neck bore a chain thick as a python, and his eyes, those eyes, still quiet, still watching everything. Behind him followed men in black, speaking no word. With them came builders, machines, and wealth that poured like rain. Within days, a mansion began to rise on sacred ground. The villagers gasped. That land was the old burial site of war dead. Spirits were said to roam there, angry and lost. No one had touched it in decades. But Okonkwo simply smiled. Then the gifts began. Bags of rice. Envelopes thick with foreign currency. Boreholes. Generators. Scholarships for the chief's children. New wrappers for widows. Suits for the elders. Gin that burned blue. It didn't take long. Objections faded. The mansion rose in 7 days. A towering black palace of granite and bronze, shaped like no other building in the region. At night, light glowed from its windows, faintly red, like coals. Some said they heard chanting. Some heard screams. No one dared get too close. People noticed things. One laborer went mad mid-construction. Screaming in tongues, clawing at his skin. He was taken into the bush and never returned. Another worker vanished altogether. The contractor said he returned to the city. Mama Ogwogu, now frail but still feared, said, "He's built not a house, but a gate." Still, Okonkwo was untouchable. Every week, he walked through the market square, handing out gold coins. No one had ever seen coins like them. Round, black-edged, with symbols that shimmered when held to sunlight. Vendors fought to touch them. One woman, Nkem, received a golden anklet. She wore it to sleep. By dawn, her foot had swollen. Her husband tried to cut it off, the anklet would not budge. That night, she walked into the river and never returned. But still, no one questioned him. Because Chief Okonkwo, as he now called himself, had returned with wealth beyond comprehension. He donated land to churches. Built a school. Even sponsored an orphanage outside town. But his eyes never smiled. And his house never cast a shadow. One night, under the full moon, the elders gathered in the square. Okonkwo sat with them, dressed in pure white. He shared stories. In the north, I walked where fire speaks. In the west, I dined with kings who feed on dreams. I stood on land where the dead rule and the living beg at their feet. The elders chuckled nervously. But Okonkwo continued. There are places where gold is not mined, but born. Where it grows like fruit, fed by blood. He paused. And in such places, you do not ask how one becomes wealthy. You only ask what remains of their soul. The fire in the middle flickered violently. He reached into his pocket and pulled out a coin. It was black. Cold. Marked with spirals that moved when stared at. I gave something away, he said, to carry this gold. And now, it speaks through me. Then he flipped the coin into the air. It never landed. It simply vanished. The elder stared. Okonkwo stood, bowed politely, and walked into the night. The fire hissed. The wind fell silent. And Umukoma felt smaller. In every village, there is a girl the wind seems to favor, one whose laughter wakes the trees and whose steps soften the ground beneath her. In Umukoma, that girl was Edora. She was born during a flood. The river had swelled beyond its banks, swallowing farmlands and frightening goats. The midwives were trapped inside a hut while thunder cracked across the sky. They feared the worst. But then, a song began, sweet and low, from inside the womb. They said she was singing before she entered the world. When she was born, her eyes were bright as moonlight on water. The midwives wept. They wrapped her in white cloth and bathed her in the river. A heron flew overhead and did not land. She belongs to the water, whispered Mama Obi, the oldest midwife. She is not just a child. She is a song. Her parents, simple basket weavers, raised her on stories. Edora grew among the women of the river, fishmongers, singers, midwives, and whisperers of old things. She learned to chant, to dance, to hum lullabies that calmed crying infants and made the wind shiver. By age 7, she could swim the river backwards with her eyes closed. At 10, she dreamt of women with fish eyes and blue skin, braiding her hair with cowries. At 13, she danced at the Yam festival for the first time. She wore a skirt of red threads and shells. When she stepped onto the village square, the drums paused for half a second as if they, too, were watching. She spun. And for a moment, time forgot itself. Even the fire in the clay pots leaned forward. Eudora became the village's pride. Not the beauty who flirted with boys, no, she was the spirit walker, the child with a river in her eyes. Every time she danced, old women nodded knowingly. Every time she sang, widowers clutched their hearts. She carries the voice of those before, whispered Mama Ogwagu, blind but never blind. But Okonkwo was watching. He had returned with gold in his pockets and darkness in his bones. When he first saw Eudora dance, he did not smile. He simply stared. The gold around his neck pulsed faintly. She did not notice him, not at first. She was not interested in men who stood like statues and wore shadows like clothes. But the next day, a silk box was delivered to her door. Inside, a golden bangle, carved with her name. And a note. To the one whose voice can tame thunder. Okonkwo. Eudora blinked. She had never spoken to him. The bracelet was heavy. Too heavy for something so thin. Her father said, "We cannot offend the chief." Her mother, "But gold from him is not just a gift. It is a hook." Eudora left it on her table and went to the river. She dipped her feet in, whispered a song, and the wind picked up. The birds went silent. A frog leapt from the reeds and stared at her, unmoving. That night, she dreamt of a palace made of bones and gold. She was walking through it, barefoot. A voice called to her from a room with no door. Then came the invitation. A handwritten note. Scented. Inviting her to a private dinner at his mansion. She hesitated. The village buzzed. Her friends urged her on. "It's just food. Don't be foolish. You might become his wife. If not you, then who? Wouldn't you rather a feast than a future in basket weaving?" Even her father looked down, guilt in his voice. If you refuse, he may see it as insult. And Okonkwo does not forgive insult. So she went. She wore white. He wore black. The mansion glowed like a shrine. Guards in dark uniforms opened the door. Inside, the walls hummed with silence. No portraits. Just tall mirrors that didn't reflect properly. Okonkwo greeted her with a bow. "You are even more powerful in stillness," he said. Dinner was soft yam, palm nut soup, and wine from a bottle that breathed mist when opened. He asked her about her childhood. She spoke of her mother's songs and her love for water. He nodded. "Water is memory," he said. "And gold is the price of forgetting." She didn't understand. But she smiled, politely. He told her about his travels. Lands beyond understanding. Temples under the earth. Rivers that whispered back. She laughed once. It was a short laugh. He smiled. But his eyes did not. Over the next few weeks, the courtship intensified. Every morning, a new gift: silks, foreign perfume, rare beads, strange fruit with red juice, gold anklets, earrings, a mirror that always showed her smiling, even when she wasn't. She tried to return them. He refused. "A river cannot return its rain," he said. She found herself thinking of him. Then one day, he sent a black car to take her to the hillside market. "Just for fun," he said. It became routine. Soon, she stopped weaving. She stopped singing. And one by one, her friends grew quiet. Then came the necklace. It was different. Gold, yes, but this time etched with moving symbols. They shimmered, then settled when she touched them. She wore it once, just once. That night, her dreams were not her own. She was walking underwater, surrounded by women whose mouths were sewn shut with golden thread. They hummed without opening their lips. One reached out and pointed at her necklace. Eudora woke up screaming. She went to the river shrine the next morning. Mama Ogwogu was waiting. The old woman, blind and fragile, reached out and touched Edora's face. Then her chest. Then the necklace. She hissed. Child, you carry something that hungers. He does not love you. He is feeding you to it. Eudora backed away. She took off the necklace and flung it into the water. It floated. Then slowly sank. Still, she stayed. Okonkwo's pool was no longer physical. It was in the air around him. The way the wind died when he entered. The way Miraz never showed his feet. The way his shadow sometimes faced the wrong direction. She felt trapped in a dream she hadn't chosen. And then, her birthday arrived. 21. Okonkwo threw a feast. All of Umukoma came. Drums, dancers, wine, roasted goat, jollof that smelled like smoke and honey. Eudora sat beside him, dressed in red silk. Her face painted, her lips trembling. He gifted her a second necklace. Gold again. She didn't want it. He insisted. At midnight, he offered her a drink. She hesitated. It's from my ancestors, he whispered. It will make you sing like the first river. She drank. It tasted of herbs and smoke. Her eyes dimmed. Her smile faded. She fell asleep on his shoulder. Okonkwo stood. He lifted her gently, like a groom with a bride. The crowd cheered. He walked to his car. She never woke. And no one ever saw Eudora again. The day after Eudora vanished, the village of Umukoma awoke as if nothing had happened. The air was still. Too still. The birds did not sing. The women fetched water. The men opened their stalls. The children ran and played. But everyone avoided speaking her name. It wasn't forgetting. No, it was survival. You don't speak the name of a girl who vanishes in gold. You don't speak the name of a girl who feasted with shadows and drank herbs that smelled like midnight. You bury her memory. Quietly. And so, Eudora was buried without a grave. But Okonkwo. He smiled. He walked through the village square that morning, dressed in royal blue, cane tapping against the ground. His guards trailed behind him like shadows without source. At the market, he handed out gold coins again. This time, the coins were shaped like teardrops, etched with two faces, one laughing, one screaming. No one asked why. One woman, Oninai, touched her coin and felt heat crawl up her arm. She dropped it. It didn't fall. It floated in the air for a moment, then fell sideways like a dead bird. She never returned to the market again. At his mansion, silence ruled. No music. No footsteps. Just the low, deep hum of something unseen. Servants spoke only in whispers. Some claimed to see Eudora's figure in the mirrors, always behind them, never beside. Her room in the mansion was locked. Always locked. The driver who took her that night said nothing. His lips were sewn shut. Literally. Villagers claimed he had been punished for speaking out loud in a dream. In the days that followed, Okonkwo began preparations. He summoned 5 elders to his estate. They arrived in silence, ropes trembling though there was no wind. He greeted them with bowls of palm wine and folded kola nuts. Let us honor her spirit, he said. Let us give thanks for her beauty, and her silence. He spoke of Eudora as if she were dead. Or immortal. No one corrected him. At his instruction, a festival was planned, not for the village, but for something else. A dedication, he said. An offering. It would be held on the 3rd blood moon of the season, a moon said to rise only when ancestral oaths were broken. Mama Ogwogu, from a corner of the village, heard the drums before they began. She rose from her mat. He dares, she whispered. He dares offer her. The festival began at dusk. Okonkwo dressed in robes of gold and ash. On his head, a crown carved from bone. Around his neck, a new pendant, long, sharp, humming with a low vibration. People gathered out of fear more than joy. The market square was filled with smoke and masks. Dancers spun with empty eyes. Drummers beat rhythms that didn't match the steps. A man collapsed mid-dance, blood dripping from his ears. No one stopped. This was no celebration. This was ceremony. In the center of it all, Okonkwo raised a golden bowl. Inside it, fire. But not red. Blue. He spoke in a language none understood, each word like a knife slicing the wind. The fire flared, hissed, then sank. He turned to the crowd and said only, "She is pleased." The villagers clapped, slowly, mechanically, as if something was moving their hands for them. Only the children cried. One boy's nose bled without cause. A baby refused to feed for 3 days after. Still, they called it a success. Still, no one spoke Adeora's name. That night, the first omen appeared. The river receded, not in drought, but in retreat, like it was afraid of something. Fish floated to the surface, dead, their eyes white. Frogs grew silent. At the water's edge, a fisherman found a golden necklace washed ashore, the same Adeora had been seen wearing weeks before. He took it home. His wife fell ill that night. His house burned 2 days later. He walked into the forest and was never seen again. In the village square, a mango tree, the same one Okonkwo had planted during Adeora's feast, began to whip sap. Not clear. Red. Children said it smelled like iron. Elders refused to look at it. Only Mama Ogwogu approached. She laid her hand on the back and whispered, "She is calling." Inside Okonkwo's mansion, the mirrors stopped working. They cracked, one by one. Servants swore they saw Adeora walking the hallways at night, barefoot, face blank, arms stretched like someone reaching through dreams. Her feet left wet footprints. They never dried. One maid tried to speak of it aloud. She coughed up water for 3 hours. Then gold flakes. Her tongue turned black. The villagers grew restless. "Where is Adeora?" they whispered in corners, in farms, by the river. Did she leave? Did he send her away? Did she die? But the questions never left their mouths fully. They feared their own voices. Then came the priest from Ikin village. He arrived with charms and chants, offering to bless the town after hearing rumors of unnatural happenings. Okonkwo welcomed him, even offered him lodging in the estate. That night, the priest entered Adeora's locked room. He was heard screaming. By morning, he had clawed out his own eyes. He wandered back to Ikin, barefoot and bleeding, muttering the same words. "She's under the house, but she's not dead, she's waiting." Okonkwo did not flinch. Instead, he prospered. His estate grew. He acquired more land. More servants. More silence. But his gold began to blacken. First the ring on his finger. Then the bracelets. One by one, they darkened, no polish could clean them. He wore them still, even as they burned faintly against his skin. His dreams turned restless. He heard singing. Not loud. Faint. Like a lullaby buried underwater. And always the same line. Behind every gift, there is a grave. He began to walk with a limp. His right eye twitched. Still, he held fists. Still, he gave gold. But fewer people came now. They had seen the gifts and what they cost. And then one evening, the moon rose blood red. And Mama Ogwogu gathered the village in her compound. She was frail, bones like sticks, voice like wind in dry leaves. She raised her calabash. Inside, 3 kola nuts. All cracked. She whispered. Her spirit lingers not because of love. Not because of hate. But because of injustice. She looked at the chief's mansion. He gave her gold, but not her will. He took her voice, but not her silence. She pointed a crooked finger at the people. And you took his coins. You opened the gate. You fed the shadow. Silence followed. Then a child said quietly, I still hear her. And the sky rumbled. The next morning, blood appeared in the river. Not dye. Not trick. Blood. Running along the surface like oil, shimmering in the sun. And floating in it, another gift. A golden anklet, etched with Adora's initials. The same one she had received on her third visit to Okonkwo's mansion. The village had seen enough. They stopped accepting his gifts. They crossed the road to avoid his estate. They whispered blessings to the river each morning. And at night, they locked their doors, not against thieves, but against songs. Songs that came from no mouth. Songs that danced with the wind. The village of Umokoma had always been blessed with watchers. The old hunters with sharp eyes. The herbalists who read signs in scattered feathers. The children who noticed the unseen and spoke freely of spirits. But none saw more than Anolika, the girl with the second sight. She had been born under an eclipse, the sun swallowed midday by a black circle with burning edges. Her mother bled for 7 days and died on the 8th. Her cry was said to summon ants. Her laughter made windows shatter. Even as a child, she saw things others couldn't. When her father died from a snake bite, they found her staring into the fire, saying, it was not the snake that bit him. It was a promise broken. The villagers feared her. But they needed her. Especially now. Especially after Edora. Anolika had not spoken a word in 3 months. Not since she returned from the forest where she'd gone to search for lost herbs, and came back with white eyes. Not blind. Just clouded. As if her sight was somewhere else entirely. She spoke only in dreams. In riddles. In echoes. But that night, after the river bled and the second gold anklet floated ashore, Anolika opened her eyes, and they were clear. She said just one thing. She is trapped in the gold. And the gold is hungry. Mama Ogwogu summoned her immediately. She arrived barefoot, a dried gourd swinging from her waist, her hair plaited like ropes. Her skin glistened with ash and charcoal. Mama Ogwogu offered her bitter leaf and palm oil. Anolika refused both. I need the ashes of her footprints, she said softly. And the feather of a bird that never flies. The old woman frowned. You seek the girl? Anolika nodded. No. I seek what became of her. That night, under a sky heavy with thunder clouds, they began the ritual. In the forest clearing behind Mama Ogwogu's compound, the fire burned blue. They scattered crushed mirror glass in a circle, then broke a snail on a stone. The blood sizzled where it landed. Anolika stepped into the circle and whispered. Let the eye that sees too much, see all. She inhaled smoke from burning yams and stared into a shallow bowl of rainwater. And then, she screamed. A scream not of fear, but of recognition. She saw Edora, suspended in gold. Not dead. Not alive. Floating in a space between shadows and mirrors, her mouth open but voiceless, her skin shimmering like molten coin. And she saw Okonkwo, kneeling before a shrine of ancient idols carved from ivory and gold, chanting the same phrase over and over. Bind the spirit. Seal the gift. Silence the tongue. She saw a mask, black and red, with eyes shaped like crescent moons and a mouth filled with teeth too many to belong to any man. She saw a room beneath the house. A door without a key. And she saw herself, walking toward it. When Anolika awoke, her nose was bleeding. Her ears were ringing. But her eyes remained clear. He's bound her soul, she whispered. Not to a grave. Not to a curse. But to gold. Mama Ogwogu nodded slowly. That is why the river bleeds. And why the coins burn. And why we forget, but never truly forget. Anolika rose. She tied a black cloth across her eyes, not because she couldn't see, but because she saw too much. And then she walked toward Chief Okonkwo's mansion. No one dared follow her. But many watched, from huts, from shadows, from behind trees. They saw the wind rise as she approached the gates. Saw the leaves turn inward. The sky ripple. She knocked. Once. Silence. Twice. The doors opened by themselves. The guards at the entrance didn't stop her. They blinked slowly, as if drugged or dreaming. One had tears running upward down his face. Another clutched a coin that was melting in his palm. Anulika stepped inside. The house hummed.